Right, so watercolor pencils are water soluble. Just a really quick reminder to use the hand sharpeners over the bins on your table to sharpen these up from the point downward. Never sharpen them by the end cap. And just think of watercolor pencils as dried paint in sharpenable form. Okay, so basically dried paint with stick. So we're gonna put our dried paint down first, and then we'll activate it using brushes and water, okay? For our first technique, dark to light, we're gonna go ahead, I have a darker green that's sharpened up. You're gonna put hard pressure, okay, on one side of your box, gradually let up to medium pressure, gradually let up to light pressure, and then off at this side, okay? So I'm pressing hard, letting up gradually as I overlap the strokes, as I go towards the middle, letting up to medium pressure, letting up to medium light pressure, letting up to lighter pressure, lightest pressure, and off. Okay, keep in mind if you want this to go a little bit darker or be a little bit darker overall, I can give it another coat. So hard pressure, medium pressure, light pressure, and off. Okay, as a really quick reminder, we don't want our strokes with a watercolor pencil to kind of look scribbly like that, because you will see it once you add the water to it, okay, which I'll share with you in a moment. Now, a couple of things. So analogous colors are side by side on the color wheel. One color goes into the creation of the other. Okay, so your options for analogous colors are as follows. They are the best friends of the color wheel, by the way. You can do yellow and green, green and blue, blue and violet, violet and red, violet and pink, pink and red, pink and orange, red and orange, or orange and yellow. Just a reminder, pink goes on the color wheel where red is, so you can blend it into what's on either side of red. I'm gonna start with the darker of the two colors as the base fade, as my dark to light. So in this case, it is my green, okay? I'm gonna press really hard on this side and gradually let up my pressure as I go across the box, okay? So medium pressure, lighter medium pressure, lighter pressure, and off. I'm actually going to go through that one more time because I was not paying attention. Hard pressure, medium pressure, there we go. Lighter pressure, lightest pressure, and off. Okay, so I have something that looks like that. I'm going to bring in my lighter color from the opposite side and gradually fade it out right in here. Okay, so I'm going to press hard on this side. Okay, still pressing hard. Still pressing hard, still pressing hard, okay? And then gradually letting up the pressure, letting up, letting up, letting up, letting up, letting up, and off. Okay, so I have something that looks like this, all right? Now our last technique, the highlight is in the center and then it's darker towards the outside. We're actually gonna use that for our tree trunk over here in just a moment, all right? So I'm gonna go ahead and press hard. Gradually let up to harder medium pressure, lighter medium pressure, lighter pressure, lighter pressure, lightest pressure, and off, okay? So toward the center of the box, it is the lightest, okay? Now I'm gonna do the reverse on this side, or I can flip my paper, okay? Sometimes I like to flip my paper just so I do the same thing. I feel like it's easier for me to go one way, one direction than the other. That is just personal though, okay? So hard pressure, harder medium, lighter medium, lighter pressure, lightest pressure, and off. So something that looks like that, okay? Now, before I add water to any of these, I want to share with you kind of how to apply some of these techniques to this drawing right here, okay? So I'm actually going to apply this dark to light to dark again for this tree trunk, okay? Reason why I'm going to do that is a tree trunk is cylindrical, okay? So it kind of pops out in the center. When it pops out in the center, that is the highlight, okay, much like we see here. So we're going to make sure that we do that, right? So hard pressure, letting up to medium pressure, letting up to lighter pressure, lightest pressure, and off, medium pressure, harder medium, hardest pressure, okay? And basically what we're doing here is shading with color. Okay, so when we add that technique to this, it adds depth and dimension to our drawing. Okay, now a couple things. What do I do about these branches? We're going to treat them as smaller cylinders. Okay, so it's going to be harder pressure on both sides, lighter in the middle. So harder on both sides, lighter in the middle. Where anything comes together, it's a little bit darker. Here we go. Letting up to light pressure, letting harder pressure. Okay. So you can see how I'm starting to add this like so. Okay. Now, one thing I want you, and sorry that I'm tilting my paper on y'all, I just want to make sure it's easier for me to reach it if it's kind of tilted toward me. So again, light in the center, darker toward the outsides, like so. Okay, I'll do that for the roots as well. Okay, now real quick, you can do some analogous color fades or even just dark to light to dark again in your leaf canopy up top. Okay, so I'll talk you through that literally in just a moment. And what I may end up doing is actually kind of combining these in different ways toward the top. So I'll share that with you. P.S. You do not need to make your tree right now a realistic colors. Probably on your final, you're going to want to do that. Make it a little darker there. Okay. Something that looks like that. All right. So this is looking all kinds of beautiful. Okay. So really quickly, what I can do is I am going to actually combine these. So I've got sort of an olivey green here, and I've got my analogous color fade. I'm going to use the analogous color fade up here, I think. But in the meantime, what I'm going to do is take the darker green. And you don't have to do this. This is just personal. Okay. But I'm going to blend it in down here, press pretty hard with it, and I'll fade it out. Okay. This is going to act as my shadow color in a little while. Okay, so pressing hard, blending it out, pressing hard, blending it out, pressing hard. And the reason why I'm adding the harder pressure here is I want it to kind of look like a little bit more of a shadow color. Pressing hard, blending it out. Okay, so I'm essentially doing dark to light kind of at a series of angles here. So pressing hard and blending it out. Okay. All right, now one thing that I can do is for my analogous fade here towards the top, I can go ahead and do this exact same thing, except kind of the opposite direction. Okay, so watch me do that real quick, and then you can kind of add it on your own. Okay, so I'm going to press hard, medium, light. Here we go. Pressing hard, medium, light, hard, medium, light. So it's kind of lighter at the top here. That's the way I'm thinking about it. Medium, light. So remember, we want it to be lightest towards the top of the tree. Hard, medium, light, or towards the outermost branches. Hard, medium, light. Okay. Because the light is going to hit it at the top, yeah? Okay. So I have something that looks like that. So my lightest is kind of up here. I'm going to bring my second analogous color in, so the yellow from the top. So hard pressure, medium pressure, lighter pressure, hard pressure, the top, medium, light, hard, medium, light, hard, do hard, medium, light. Here we go. Okay, so it's kind of looking like this, right? All right, so you can kind of see how it's starting to have some depth and dimension. Now let's go ahead and talk about water really briefly, okay? So for our water, okay, when we activate the watercolor pencil, okay, same things that we've always had. So water cup, we'll have a couple small brushes, rounds and flats. Paper towel is going to be important today, I think. And one thing we're gonna go ahead and do is I am going to grab a flat, okay, and I'm going to apply the water on the boxes using my flat. Now, once I go to my tree, I'm probably going to downgrade to a round brush. All right, I'm gonna add water to my paintbrush real quick. I'm gonna blot it off on my paper towel. Okay, because we're working on copy paper, you want to get as much paintbrush drool off as possible, okay, before you apply the water to the paper. Reason being, this paper has no powers of absorption, okay? So the more water you add, the more it's just going to kind of go everywhere. You're going to add the water always where it's lightest and drag to where it's darkest, okay? So you'll notice that as I activate this, that it starts to gradually turn to paint. Pretty cool. Okay, rinse, blot, adding it from the lightest color into the darkest color. Okay, and then lastly, for dark to light to dark, I'm going to add it where it's lightest, drag to where it's darkest. You saw I had a little bit of that, I had a little bit of that yellow still on my brush, so it got in the center. Rinsing, blotting. I'm going to add the water where it's lightest in the center and drag to the opposite side, okay? And that maintains that highlight in the center, yeah? Okay, so it kind of looks like that. Now, I'm going to apply that exact same thing to this side, okay? So I am actually going to use a smaller round brush. For my tree trunk, I'm going to add water in the center, drag to the outside. Okay, rinse and blot. Add the water in the center, drag to the outside. I'm going to downgrade to a smaller round brush here to do the branches. So adding water in the center, dragging outward, rinsing, blotting. Adding water in the center, dragging outward, rinsing, blotting. Here we go. Center, outward. Rinse, blot, center, outward. If you notice that some of your paper kind of starts to turn a grayish color, it just means that your copy paper is having trouble absorbing the water. Shocker. Okay, here we go. All right, so it looks like my tree trunk is basically almost done. And now let's talk about the leaf canopy. So I want to add the water where it's lightest and drag to where it's darkest. Now, it's not the smartest idea to add that right now because my tree trunk is wet. We're going to do it anyway, though, in the interest of time. So adding water gradually where it's lightest, dragging into where it's darkest, preserves the light. Also, the cool thing with watercolor pencil is, let's say I don't want to activate something. I don't have to. So if I don't want to activate that area because I want it to stay dark or whatever, I don't have to do that. Okay. So in conclusion, just make sure that you're always adding where it's water where it's lightest and dragging to where it's darkest to preserve that highlight.